don't care. I don't follow a lot of social media, so I don't look at any of that junk. I jump out of airplanes. I hang out with a man that I love. I have a job and a woman in her mid-50s that's still relevant. Are you kidding me? I'm just very blessed.
In May of 2025, fans of Rachael Ray watched a video and they did not recognize the woman they saw on the screen. The familiar face of the always smiling chef, a person they had welcomed into their homes for years, seemed to have vanished completely. She was replaced by a person whose voice trembled and whose appearance looked tired, which caused a wave of concern and fearful speculation across the internet. The comments section exploded with worried questions and armchair diagnoses. But what if the visible changes were not a sign of collapse? What if, instead, they were the physical evidence of a tremendous internal battle and a powerful rebirth from ashes? The answer to what happened to Rachael Ray is not found in medicine, but in psychology. Because this is a story about post-traumatic growth. The public had already formed its opinion about her. When Rachael Ray began posting cooking videos in late 2024 and early 2025, viewers saw a woman they believed was in serious trouble. They pointed out that her speech sometimes sounded slurred, and they worried that one side of her mouth appeared lower than the other. These observations led to a frightening conclusion that spread quickly through social media, suggesting that Rachael Ray might have suffered a stroke. Others guessed at even darker reasons for the change they witnessed. They looked at a woman who appeared frail and exhausted, and they defined her by this apparent vulnerability. This perspective, however, completely misses a more profound and powerful possibility. It overlooks a concept in psychology that can precisely explain what was happening. This concept is known as post-traumatic growth, or PTG. It is a simple but transformative idea which suggests that after human beings experience horrific and painful events, they are not only capable of recovering and returning to their previous state, they can also undergo a positive psychological change, a kind of rebirth that leaves them stronger, wiser, and more purposeful than they were before the tragedy occurred. According to this theory, people do not just survive, they are reborn with a new awareness and a life compass that has been completely reoriented. The journey of Rachael Ray, when examined closely, is not a tale of decline. It is a vivid and powerful real-world example of post-traumatic growth in action. From violent assaults on the streets of New York to a fire that consumed her entire world, the traumas she endured were immense, but her actions that followed these events, the decision to leave a successful 17-year television show, the move to another country to rebuild from a ruin, and the establishment of a new media empire with a mission to help others in similar situations, are not the actions of a person who is falling apart. They are the deliberate steps of someone in the process of a deep transformation. The appearance that so worried her fans did not reflect weakness. Instead, it was the visible mark of an internal struggle and the profound change happening deep within her. To fully understand this growth, we must first understand the pain that planted its seeds. Rachael Ray's life has been shaped by two distinct traumatic events, separated by decades, but both of them struck at the very core of her sense of safety and security in the world. During the 1990s, Rachael Ray was living in New York City, not as a television star, but as a young working woman. She worked at the candy counter at Macy's department store, later managed the fresh foods department, and eventually helped to open a famous gourmet market called Agatha and Valentina. Her life in the city, however, was shattered by sudden violence. Outside her apartment building in Queens, a man attacked her. He slammed her against a door and pressed a gun into her back. Rachael screamed and fought back, using mace to fend off her attacker. It was a terrifying, random assault, but the horror did not end there. A few days later, the same man returned. He found her in the exact same location. This time, he dragged her into a side alley, as she later recounted. He beat the crap out of me with his gun. She only managed to escape because her dog, Liza, chased the man and scared him away. Being assaulted twice by the same individual completely destroyed her sense of safety. The world was no longer a predictable or safe place, and her own home no longer felt like a sanctuary. The psychological impact was immediate and profound. She made a decision to leave Queens and move back to her hometown in upstate New York. This reaction is a classic survival instinct known as the flight response. When faced with an uncontrollable threat, the most logical choice is to flee in search of safety. This assault left a deep psychological scar, an understanding that everything could be taken away in an instant. It also established a pattern that would repeat itself decades later. When confronted with a life-altering trauma in New York, her response was to retreat, leave, and begin the process of rebuilding. Decades passed, during which Rachael Ray became a household name and built an empire. She also built a home, which was not just a house, but her personal sanctuary, a property deep in the woods of Lake Luzerne, New York, that she had designed herself. It was the physical embodiment of her hard-won safety and success. On August 9, 2020, that sanctuary was completely destroyed. Rachael was at home with her husband, John, her mother, and their dog, Bella. When the fire started, she later described the moment she knew something was terribly wrong, saying, "I could hear the fire in the wall. I could hear electricity. I could hear danger." A fire had broken out and was spreading with incredible speed. The family and their dog managed to get out with nothing, but everything else was lost. Videos taken by viewers showed intense flames shooting from the home. Rachael described the experience as blood-curdling as she stood on the road and watched her entire life burn to the ground. She lost more than just clothes, which can be replaced. She lost her personal notebooks, and her husband, a musician, lost his music books, which were irreplaceable items filled with years of work and creativity. There is one particularly heartbreaking story from the aftermath. Her home had a pizza oven, and in the days following the fire, she looked at the wreckage and thought that the pizza oven had survived. It was one small thing that had made it through the disaster, but she was wrong. She said that about 12 or 13 days later. Something fell and broke the pizza oven too. The house was a total loss and was eventually bulldozed. This trauma was different from the attack in Queens because it was not a threat to her body, but an annihilation of her environment, her history, and her memories. The house was a symbol. It was the safe place she had built for herself after her sense of safety was stolen in the city. Losing it had the power to re-traumatize her, amplifying old fears and feelings of powerlessness. Years later, in a tearful video, she articulated its impact clearly, stating, "I can say from personal experience, when disaster strikes your home, your life changes forever." This was her definitive before and after moment, the event that created the person her fans are seeing today. People who experience PTG often realize new paths for their lives that they did not see before. For Rachael Ray, her daytime talk show, The Rachael Ray Show, had been her life for 17 years, representing a well-established and successful path. But after the fire, something shifted. During the pandemic lockdown and after losing her home, she filmed her show from her tiny guest house, with only her husband, John, helping her. She got a taste of a new way of working and a new way of life. She called it Our Little World to Just Be Us. Then, in 2023, she did the unthinkable and ended her long-running show to outsiders. This may have looked like an ending, but it was truly a new beginning. On the very same day that the show's end was announced, she also announced the launch of her own production company, Free Food Studios. She had seen a new possibility for her career, one that was not bound by what she called the traditional rules of distribution. This new path offered freedom from network bosses, from the need to please advertisers, and from the pressure of ratings. The fire had forced her to work differently, and in doing so, it showed her a completely new and more fulfilling way forward. She did not retire. She liberated herself. While trauma can isolate a person, PTG often leads to a deeper sense of empathy and connection with others who are suffering. Rachael Ray transformed this newfound empathy into a public mission. The clearest evidence of this is her new show, which is the most important one in her new empire, Rachael Ray's Rebuild. This program is not a cooking show. It is directly inspired by her own house fire. In every episode, Rachael helps a different family whose life has been devastated by disaster. She helps people who have lost their homes to fires, floods, and tornadoes. In this role, she is not just a celebrity host. She is a fellow survivor speaking to other survivors. She uses her own blood-curdling experience to connect with them on a genuine level. In the promotional video for the show, a tearful Rachael says it all. "I want to help people rebuild their homes and their lives." She transitioned from the role of someone who experienced tragedy to the role of someone who uses that tragedy as a bridge to reach and help others. Her connection with her audience evolved from entertainment to healing. Survivors of trauma often develop a new understanding that if they could get through that experience, they can get through anything. This inner strength is often expressed through external actions. For Rachael, this action was building. After her New York home was bulldozed, she rebuilt it remarkably. She rebuilt it exactly as it was before, relying entirely on her memory. This was an act of defiance, a statement that she would not allow the fire to erase her past. But an even more powerful act of building took place in Tuscany, Italy. She did not simply buy a beautiful Italian villa, because that would have been too easy. Instead, she purchased a centuries-old stable. When she bought it, the structure had no water, no electricity, no heat, and no plumbing. It was an abandoned ruin, and she brought it back to life. Her show, Rachael Ray's Italian Dream Home, documented the entire incredible renovation process. Her team had to excavate floors just to make the ceilings high enough. She built a music hall for her husband and, in a classic Rachael move, she even built a full kitchen inside the bedroom. This act is a perfect metaphor for her personal strength. Her New York home was destroyed against her will, so she went to Italy and intentionally found a ruin. And through her own will, she turned it into something beautiful. It was the ultimate act of reclaiming control. It demonstrated a newfound belief in herself. If I can rebuild from a physical ruin, I can also rebuild my own life. Facing death or catastrophic loss often radically changes a person's priorities. Fame, money, and a busy schedule lose their importance. This is evident in Rachael's decisions. She has said that she prefers living in Italy and that she wants a quieter life. This decision was not about retirement. As she has also said, she is busier than ever with her new company. Instead, it was about changing the terms of her life. She gave up a show that required her to be in one place and follow someone else's schedule. In its place, she chose a life that allows her to divide her time between two countries, to work on projects she is passionate about, and to control her own environment. After losing everything, it seems she realized that true wealth was not her $100 million net worth. True wealth was self-determination, time, peace, and the ability to live life on her own terms. This is often the most profound change in PTG, as it involves finding meaning in a meaningless event. Rachael Ray's life mission has fundamentally changed. For decades, her mission was to make cooking accessible. Shows like 30-minute meals and $40 a day were about helping people save time and money in the kitchen. Now, her mission is much bigger. It is no longer just about dinner. It is about rebuilding lives. The fact that she turned her personal pain of losing her home into a public mission to help others through Rebuild shows a deep philosophical shift. She found a higher purpose in her worst suffering. The act of turning a tragedy into a television show designed to help others is a transformative one. It gives meaning to the loss and turns a negative experience into a positive force for change in the world. She is no longer just a chef. She has become an advocate for the displaced and a rebuilder of hope. If a psychologist were to analyze Rachael Ray's case, they would not focus on her tired appearance as a sign of illness. Instead, they might see it as the cost of resilience. Processing trauma and actively rebuilding a life is emotionally and physically exhausting work. The fatigue is not a sign of failure, but evidence of an ongoing battle. The expert would point to a core mechanism of PTG known as narrative reframing. Before the fire, Rachael's story was about success and relatability. After the fire, she was at risk of getting stuck in a new story. I am the victim of a terrible fire. Instead, she actively rewrote it. Her new narrative is, I am a survivor of a fire who learned about loss. And now I use that knowledge to empower others to rebuild. This is a powerful shift from the passive role of a victim to the active role of the hero in her own story. Furthermore, the expert would highlight the importance of altruism, as seen in her show Rebuild, as a healing tool. By focusing on helping others, a person can shift their attention away from their own pain. Helping someone else navigate a similar tragedy can provide a sense of competence, purpose, and control in a situation that initially felt completely out of control. In essence, by healing others, Rachael Ray is also actively healing herself. When the public looked at Rachael Ray in 2025, they saw a change and drew quick conclusions based on fear and concern. They saw a woman who looked different and assumed she was broken. But they were only looking at the surface, seeing the scars without understanding the battle that created them. The real story is not in how she looks, but in the actions she has taken. She is not collapsing. She is transforming. Her journey is a case study in human resilience. She faced two of our most primal fears, personal violence and the complete destruction of the home. Each time, she responded with a clear pattern of retreating, regrouping, and then rebuilding stronger and more purposefully than before. The attack in Queens inadvertently launched her career. The fire in New York launched her new empire and her new mission. Rachael Ray is no longer the bubbly chef we once knew, because that persona belongs to a life before the fire. The woman who exists now is far more complex and far more resilient. She is a warrior who bears the marks of her battles. She is a builder, both literally, as she raised walls from a ruin in Italy, and psychologically, as she constructed a new life from the ashes of her old one. She has taken her most painful experiences and turned them into her most powerful tools for creating change. Her story offers a profound message. It teaches us that growth is not a pretty process. It is messy, it is exhausting, and it often leaves its mark on us. But it also shows that from within the ashes of our most painful tragedies, human beings have an incredible capacity not only to recover, but to find new strength, a deeper purpose, and to rise stronger than ever before. That is the true nature of post-traumatic growth. And that is the real story written on the face and in the actions of Rachael Ray today.